Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, it's the Takeover Tuesday podcast, and I'm David Allen. We are once again without Carlos Redlick because he is busy as heck fire getting ready for a big launch. But we have another copywriter on the show today. I'm probably going to mispronounce your name, so please correct me. But Danavir Saria. Perfect. Okay, good. Woo! Now that part, the rest is downhill. So you're a copywriter. We're just going to dive right into it. Usually what we like to do is get your sort of superhero origin story to start off with. How did you get into copywriting? What was the sort of give us the backstory?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, give us the backstory to your how you got into this marketing and copywriting mess.
Okay. Well, pretty much what happened, at least specifically to copywriting, is I first made my first ever sales letter back when I was like 15 years old, trying to sell a combination between dating and fitness products. And then the very next year, I liked street magic, right, like the David Blaine type of stuff. And I asked this YouTube magician, like, hey, can I just help you out for free? And we started talking, and a couple months later, he was like, hey, do you know how to write emails? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, well, how about I teach you how to write emails, and I'll pay you $200 a month to write all my emails for me. And then I'm like 16 years old, and I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. So
we were thrust into it abruptly.
Yeah. I was like completely like, I didn't even know what copywriting even was. So like, yeah, that's how I got in.
That's awesome, man. So growing up, were you into was your father or your family into sales at all, or did you have any sales jobs, or how did any of that stuff in your past?
None at all. It's always just been me. Ever since I was little, I liked, business and stuff.
Right. Now, did you go to college for business, or did you attend college, or have any of that stuff?
I'm actually graduating today.
Today?
Yes, today.
Well,
Later today.
congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
And what are you graduating from?
Double major in marketing and management.
Nice. And which university?
Florida International University.
Awesome. So give a shout out to Florida International and the
Yes.
students graduating today. That's awesome. I'm so happy you came on the show today. You have a busy day, chances are.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So you were thrust into writing emails for this David Blaine-esque person. Where did it take you from there? How did you get to the next step about learning about copywriting and then sort of deciding, hey, this is something I want to get into?
Yeah. Well, first thing is that I don't think of myself as a copywriter at all, actually. I think I'm an entrepreneur who just happens to know copy, and it just ends up being one of my main skills. So I've always been on trying to do my own thing, selling self-defense products, fitness products, and stuff like that. And eventually, somewhere along that point, maybe I think it was in 2014, I was sold essentially by other copywriters. I think John Benson was the one who actually sold me fully into it, how important copywriting was. And by that time, I'd already been writing copy for years, but it was never a serious thing. And then from there, when I just felt like the need was in 2014 to learn copy, I just dove right in. I bought all the classics. I just immersed myself straight up direct response copywriting for 6 to 8 months, like nonstop. And that was pretty much the next big step in terms of becoming good at it. And then from there, it was kind of like stumbling with clients and stuff, like, referrals and stuff like that, and meeting people and stuff like that. So I was never big into, client work. I was always into my own stuff. And that's pretty much why I learned copy in the first place, because I wanted to sell my own stuff.
Right. Well, I think that's a very, very interesting thing to say, because it seems like we've had some very, big name copywriters on this show. And they sort of all tell the same story, which is, they got into copywriting, usually through some weird manner, like you said, for you was writing emails for this magician. And then, they found clients, they were referred, they sort of built up their client list, they went to even better clients, and then they realized at some point that writing copy for themselves was going to be way more lucrative perhaps than writing copy for, clients, and so they shifted their focus, towards their own products and services. But that sounds like, figure that out, sort of, that's how you got into it. You wished to do that from the start.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially I remember listening to I forgot who was saying this. It was John Carlton or Dan Kennedy. They're like, so who makes more money, Dan Kennedy or the Gary Halberts and John Carltons? And I was like, you know what, Dan Kennedy makes more because he's a better businessman. So I was like, you know what, yeah, I'm on the right track. I'll stay with the Dan Kennedy route.
Yeah, I mean, that's very smart. That's definitely, it seems that they come full circle into that realization eventually. We had another copywriter on the show here not so long ago, Mitch Miller, and he talked about how it was a, sort of a realization when one of his clients, the copy was responsible for, one of the responsible things for his client making $1 million in a month. He then realized, I got paid X number of dollars to do the copy, but this guy made $1 million. Like, wait a second, I should probably turn this around somehow, to where I'm the million, making $1 million.
Exactly.
So you were into, judging by what I know about you and your profile and so forth and the social media, you're into martial arts.
Yes.
You've been taking that your whole life?
Yes, ever since I was 8 years old.
And what martial arts are you into?
What I did when I was younger, I was in Goju karate, and I
Okay.
did that for like 4 or 5 years. My dad taught me boxing because he did boxing, and then from there, I just pretty much, since I just liked martial arts, I just try to learn stuff of my own.
Right. So, and now to bring it sort of fast forward to today, you have your own brand, Copy Monk.
Yeah.
Now you started that pretty recently, yes?
Yes, December 27th was when the first post came out.
Okay, so very, very new because we're here in, what is this, May?
Yes.
So, so it's about 6 months. You've been doing the Copy Monk, and you have your own Facebook group and so forth. For the Copy Monk, what was the idea? This was going to be the copywriting services brand, or this was going to be your way to sell products, to the other copywriters, or what's the sort of impetus for starting that?
It was definitely to sell copywriting products. In fact, the whole point was to get out of copywriting services. So,
Right.
it just so happened that like by the time I started CopyMug, I just failed so hard selling fitness and self-defense stuff that copywriting was my only other gift, but just happened to be the best one that I guess I was at and people thought I was at. And I guess it was also because copywriting in itself, the market is actually pretty easy when compared to fitness. So yeah, it was definitely to sell copywriting products and stuff like that. Like I like the whole point is like I always like the cult of copy, how Colin sold his stuff and Ben Settle and how they did all that stuff. And for me, at least for CopyMonk, is to be basically like the Ramit Sethi of copywriting.
I'm sure Ramit will be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, when it came to the client work that you have done, how did you find those clients? We get a lot of questions. People ask me a lot of questions because we have this show and I'm a copywriter. How do they find? It seems like copywriters are very good at selling everything else except for themselves. That seems to be a stumbling block they have of how do they get clients, which seems ridiculous in some sense if you're into copywriting, but it seems pretty common, in another sense.
Yeah. At least when it comes to that, like I actually don't find that as a surprise because what happens with a lot of copywriters that they think it's only about copy when it's really about marketing. And so that's definitely something I learned, at least for how I got my clients. In the beginning, it was, to be honest, it was just straight up, hey, like cold emailing, like just just talking to people. Like that's like I got my first ever the magician just by cold emailing him, and then from there on, like I said, it was pretty much ended up being referrals because I would always look to do my own stuff, right? Sell my own products, whatever. But I would end up meeting people along the way while doing that, and then those people be like, I would talk to them like, hey, I could just write it, write this copy for you. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, other than that, it was a lot some of it, not a lot, but some of it was in the Cult of Copy job board. Just literally just being there like every day, every other day, and yeah, pretty much it. Now because of Copy Monk, and I get you know, I get message like every other day to write copy for someone, like from people who actually pay me big bucks, and I keep telling them no.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's interesting. Now, in your role as writing for clients, and when you were cold emailing people, what sort of things were you seeing that you were like, look, this is terrible. I could this is a potential client. Because I think people who are new to copywriting, who are just starting out in it, they're looking for ways to like, what's an easy sell for somebody to approach somebody with, like how do you approach them, and then what should you attempt to do for them? What are some of the major mistakes maybe people are making that you've seen?
Okay. First of all, is to find people who actually do it, like who actually use direct response copy.
Right.
Like, go for the people who are emailing every day, and not necessarily every day, but they're emailing people. They have sales pages and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
Usually that's in, people who sell online courses, information products. That's like the best place if you want to be a direct response copywriter. As for actually like messaging them, that ends up being usually a hit or miss. That's why I liked the Cult of Copy job group, because it was super easy.
Right.
So if I were to start off again like completely new, it'd definitely be in the job group. And then from basically like the actual work, like what to offer, I would, like, if I were to consult someone, I would say, hey, just do whatever you're best at, essentially. But usually, well, I would start with emails, just because it's usually easier for the copywriter, and it's easier for the person say, oh, it's only $100. I won't lose so much if he sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So unless that's like a sales letter is like $5,000, well, I don't know if I want to do that. So yeah, so definitely be on the smaller end, just like kind of like if you think about the digital marketers like tripwire theory
Right.
thingy, the self-liquidating offer, just go for something on the low end, emails and stuff like that, and then go from there.
Excellent. I think that's good advice. That's how I sort of got involved too, was emailing, learning email skills, and then writing people's emails. Now, if you're going to take this copy monk thing forward, you're going to be like this, like a lot of other people, like perhaps Dan Kennedy and John Carlton and some of these people. Like you said, you want to be the Ramit Sethi of copywriting. What sort of things are you going to expand? Like, you're going to offer a bunch of products and stuff, I presume.
Yes, of course. A lot of because it's a funny thing. A lot of people, what's it called? They compare Copy Monk to the Cult of Copy, which is really flattering. So basically, I know I've been in the Cult of Copy, and I'm essentially doing the opposite of what Colin does. Super high end, all that. If you look at in my group right now, at least at the time of this recording, like I have a whole list of stuff I'm going to sell, and people are just liking it left and right.
Right.
And yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna, at least when it comes to the product side, it's definitely gonna be on the high end, kind of like how the Derek Halpern or Ramit Sethi, they sell $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 products, and that'll be at least on the product end, that'll be what I'm doing. What I'm really trying to do, at least at the moment, is not worry too much about the products, because that's actually the easy part when you're a copywriter. That's kind of like what you do.
Right.
So for me at the moment is to build that audience and that brand, which is the one thing that's always held me back, and is the one thing that CopyMonk has been successful at since the beginning. So that's what I'm trying to focus on right now.
That's excellent. Great. That's a great answer. I think you're on the right track. Now, for people that are, because we have sort of two audiences. We have a lot of younger, not necessarily younger, but newer copywriters that are just either getting into the field or have been in it for a while and are sort of perhaps struggling. And we have sort of early business people who either have a business already in sort of the early stages of that, or are starting a business, and they're trying to find their way through the quagmire of like copy and sales pages and emails and all sorts of things that copywriters do. If you were to consult for somebody today, let's say, what sort of quick and easy things would you say for the business owners that are sort of, getting stuck in a quagmire of all these different things? What's the easiest way to go about these things? What minimum things should you have, basically?
To learn copy?
No, to like for their business. So if let's say you're gonna hire a copywriter, you're a business owner. What sort of minimal jobs should you get them to do up front? To sort of get it handled. So your business can start to take off, and you don't have to get everything done at once. So there's like this overwhelm, because it seems like a lot of new business owners are sort of stuck with there's so much information, there's so many things to do. In your opinion, being an expert in this field, what sort of, if you name sort of three things are the basics that they should have?
Okay, as in like I think you're talking about like more like the outsourcing of the
Right, because
copy.
they're gonna hire a copywriter, let's say, hopefully, and they're gonna say, I want you to do X, Y, and Z.
Okay. Well, at least because I actually care more about the marketing and the business part side of things. It's when I think about it, like if I were to actually outsource to someone, which I've had thought about, it first thing is that if you have all your all the other boxes ticked, like you have good marketing, you have all that stuff, you don't need to worry nearly as much. Because there are a lot of people with horrible copy that are doing really, really well.
Right, right, right. In spite of
So
themselves, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like copy to me is like a multiplier. Like it's not like even if you have bad copy, everything else is doing well, you're gonna be solid. So that's one thing that makes you feel should make you feel safer if you actually know what you're doing. Besides on the outside part. Number two, when it comes to actually hiring someone, I definitely think I'm a little biased when it comes to this, but you should figure out that person if that person is more than just a copywriter. Like I think it's a copywriter's duty to know the direct response marketing as well. Because once you know once you know understand marketing and how copy fits into that, then you can write better copy, and that copywriter will be more flexible. Like you'll be able to tell them, hey, I have this funnel coming out. Can you help me write the copy for the entire funnel? And they'll be able to understand how one part fits with the other, and maybe what how maybe that for example that conversion rates don't matter as much as revenue, and positioning and brand matters, long what's it called, lifetime value means more than immediate revenue and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So once they know marketing, they'll be better fit to handle your entire business, not just a sales letter or stuff like that. And then I guess the last thing would be to actually like try them out. I do think that emails is definitely the best way, because it's again it's cheaper to start off with. It's easier for the copywriter to do, and it's also the most high. I think it's the highest leveraged activity you can do, because it's something you can literally do every single day, and you could test copywriters really quickly if you need to, and yeah, and a good email, like people, and you'll be able to get immediate feedback on a good, because people will be like, for example, I sent out an email for like it was just for a survey type of thing, and then I literally got emails, people replying like, hey, like this is the first time I ever like answered a survey. Like your
Right.
email was like so good, I just had to answer the survey. So like you get feedback from your actual audience if your emails are really good. So I think that's definitely the first place to go if you're nervous about hiring a copywriter and stuff like that.
Right. Now, how should people, and maybe you can talk about both sides of this, maybe what you prefer or what you did, and then how you would do it if you had to do it again. How do you structure, like a lot of copywriters now ask me, in that initial sort of stage where you have a new client or you're about to embark on a new journey with somebody to see where this goes, how do you structure these deals? Is it a trial period? Do you do the one project first? What's sort of the way you did it, maybe, and then the way you would prefer to have done it, if there's if that's the case?
As a copywriter, when I okay, so the way that I did it was it was essentially just me. Well, to be honest, I went like off the cuff. I did not plan any of this stuff out. I literally just
Right.
I literally just went in there, and I'm like, okay, listen, how, like I'll always ask the same questions, like, what do you need? And then later I ended up learning, I asking questions like, how much leads are you getting a day? Can I see your stuff, your like, the website and social media accounts and stuff like that. And then pretty much what will end up happening is they would say, okay, I need 5 emails for whatever the amount is, right? And I'll just say yes, and then from there it will end up being like it's kind of like the front end offer, like okay, yes, boom, I do well, and then from this, and this. So that's what happened, at least when I was doing it. As for how I would do it now, I guess the big mistake I always made was the way I would normally be lenient with the way that I accepted payments. It was always like, okay, 50/50 sounds good. Okay, oh, you're paying a week late. Okay, that's not so bad. But but now today I'd be like, no, 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 no. It's upfront, 100% upfront money. If not, then don't. Like I'm not
Yeah.
doing this.
No, I think that's an important point. I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show, and in spite of the fact that we've had a lot of copywriters on this show, because I think a lot of us have gone through that, but maybe we never talked about it. You were doing 50/50 deals and you were lenient and so forth, and then you realized. So when you changed at some point, I presume you changed to be like, give me the money up front and then we'll begin. What sort of changes in terms of the types of clients and their response, or maybe even the results they got? Because I think there's like a psychological aspect to all this stuff too, of course.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's interesting because when I was making the change, it was during actually like literally at the very beginnings of Copy Monks when I was still doing client work. So I had that little leverage there, and the the referrals I was getting. So basically, what happened was that when I made that change, everyone who I had before like left, right? Because they were the cheap clients essentially. They're like, there's no way I'm gonna give you upfront money. Or like I remember one guy, I'm not gonna say his name. One guy he messaged me and he was like, and I told him up front, like it was like literally like $100 like up front. And he was like, "Oh, I don't pay contractors up front like that." And I'm like, "Get out of here." So so
And hit
yeah,
the
like
road.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that's the first part is that's what happened. All the people who bad clients essentially would leave. And and then the second part was that while I was getting higher quality leads, and I told them up front, like again, I won't say this guy's name. He's a big guy, and I just told him like he needed like an up last minute copy for a launch, and I just said I shot out a big number and up front, and then he was like okay.
Yeah.
So
No, that's very. We're laughing about this, but I think this is very important because, and we do know that these things are. It's very weird. I think this is sort of this weird. I don't like to get too woo woo. I'm not really a woo woo type. I'm not spiritual. I'm not really, you know. But in this case, there is this weird thing that occurs when you kick it up to a new level of client. Like for the beginning copywriters who are listening to this is very important. When you are charging these sort of cut rate rates, you get this certain kind of client. Like you said, you wanted $100 up front, and the guy was like, he balked at that. Like, oh, I don't do that. But yet you ask for like $10,000 up front for someone who's serious, and they don't even blink an eye at it because it's like they're already serious. They're already of a different kind of mentality. They know what the copy can do. In this case, it was a last minute job too, so that's even more important. And as a result, they say yeah. And now it sounds ridiculous to you if you've never charged that before too. There's this almost guilt of you know what I mean. But it's funny because once you break that barrier, then you're like, oh shit, I could have been asking for that stuff all along.
yeah. Well, there's actually two things about that while you were talking that I just remembered. The first thing is that this is actually it was actually a public what's it called, a public argument that
Okay,
but
a
on
flame war
Facebook.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, like because when you do that, you also have to remember, like, you realize that you can only charge as much as the market allows you to. But then here's the problem: is the problem that the market that you are charging too much for the market, or is it a problem that you picked the wrong market? So if you want to charge up front, you need to be better at finding the people who would accept that kind of stuff.
Right. The people are spending money probably on advertising already.
Yeah, exactly. And people who you can tell are more up there when you ask them questions during like the interview process. You could ask them, how many leads they got, figure out if their business is successful or not. And then from there you could actually charge more. And like the way I love Gary Vaynerchuk says, like, hey, if someone says yes, the next time you double it and see what they say.
Right.
So it's exactly how you should go about it, because if not, as a copywriter, you'll end up doing a lot of work for a little bit of pay and no one really cares about you. So yeah, you have to.
And I think, and maybe you can speak to this too, I think, in my experience, that if you charge more, if you get those more serious clients who aren't, and it's always a negotiation or whatever, but if you get those clients where you're charging more and they're willing to go along with that, they get better results. You know what I mean? Like, and they're far less of a pain in the ass usually.
Oh yes.
So it's this weird, they're more happy, and probably because they realize what's possible and what's not possible, whereas the people paying the cheap rates, they don't really understand the whole process, and they don't really understand what to expect. Their expectations are out of whack. They think you're gonna make them maybe a millionaire overnight or something with their shitty $7 ebook or something. So it's weird. It's hard to get through people's minds. I think beginning copywriters, and I think we've all gone through this, it's hard to get to that next sort of level of thinking until you experience that one breakthrough you said, where you just kind of threw out a number and it's almost like the same story that people have. They threw out a number and they took it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they took
it. No, it's exactly how it is. I used to have the same problems, like, oh, I don't know, this might be a little bit too much. I really want this job. But then I was like, once I was like, you know what? I am 100% going with products. I don't care about clients. And I just said, screw it. Okay, I'll just charge higher. They say, no, that's better for me. And then they say yes. And I'm like, okay, better,
Right, because then you were no longer relying on that solely, as you were saying, I'm going to sell these products anyway. So if they want to pay me X to do, then it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think we've all done that. Yeah, that's the real big breakthrough. If people listen to this later on, when this comes out, think about that. Sit down if you're a new copywriter and think about this. You should test the envelope, and just see. Now the person may balk at you, but it's a negotiation. So if you start high, you can always say, well, what are you working with and stuff, and get access to that information you need to make a good judgment, and approaching people who are already doing a lot of marketing perhaps, but doing it badly, is probably a very good choice.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing. Only focus on helping the people who you can actually help.
Now, what is the most common thing that you see for those people who are not copywriters, but are just business owners or new business people, or just trying to get out their first product online, perhaps if it's a digital product, or they have an offline business that they're trying to get underway, trying to get market better? What are sort of the, a couple major mistakes that you see made over and over again?
This is actually pretty funny, because this is what CopyMonk is like, it's to help the business owners, right? And what I've come to realize as being on both ends is that you have the business owners who think that copy is either useless, like it doesn't matter, or you have business owners that think that copy is like the most magical thing in the world, and then right. So yeah. So and then when you look at how actual businesses run through systems, right, and you realize that it comes, and this is another thing. CopyMonk is also about being less in the direct response world, which has its own mindset. I'm thinking more in the startup world, right, like technology and all that stuff. And there's always the same thing. There's always that whole thing of your MVP, and then you adapt from there on. And I think that's how business owners should think about when it comes to their copy. So if you want to release a new product, your first thing is you should just put out a sales letter. Just literally just say, hey, this is what I got. This is what it does for you, and here's how to get it, right? And just put it out there. See if people like the offer, and then you adapt from there. And what I've come to realize too is that it's better to have, when you have that system of copy, that whether you have an in-house or an in-house team, or you have freelancers, it's a lot better to have 5 B level sales letters than it is to have, one A+ and the rest are like D's. You know what I mean? So if you have, as long as you can consistently churn out good copy, not necessarily the most highest quality in the world, but if you churn out good copy, then the marketing and everything else you do will pick up the slack and you'll be solid.
I wish I knew who said this, because I've heard this quote before, and I would love to give an attribution to it. Whoever said this, but somebody said that how am I going to put this? That the best kind of business is a sales letter. You know what I mean? It's like that's a good place to, if you're going to start a business, start with that. That is a business right there, in a nutshell. And I thought that was very profound, because I don't think people think that way. A lot of people who are starting businesses, from what I've seen, and I've made this mistake in the past myself personally, with a fitness business that I had years ago. I gathered all the shit together for a business, before I had any clients, because you're kind of hoping, if I just set up this restaurant or something, people will want, and this food is so damn good that, but how are they going to know? That's where are they going to come from? It's just going to be some magical thing where they hear about you through, some weird process. No, it comes from the marketing and a sales letter. Somebody said no business occurs until something is sold.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
a good place to start. That minimum, you said MVP earlier, that minimum viable product.
Yes, exactly. And that's essentially what I did with the Coffee Monk in the early days. I was like, because I'm still only focused on building the audience, but there's no point of building the audience if they're not high quality, meaning that they pay. So
Right.
I ended up selling something, and then I found out that they paid with literally my quote unquote sales letter was just a Facebook post and a couple of emails, and I made money off of it. So I was like, you know what, this is solid. Let me keep growing.
Right. You got to test to see if is this what they want, or what's the deal. Yeah. No, I think that's very smart. And for business owners out there who are thinking of getting into business, who are just in the throes and trying to, are accruing too many stuff, this is a good way to do it. Sort of what they call the lean startup sort of model, which is to just sell something and then say, okay, if this sells, well, we can scale it from there. Let's maybe get some of those other things to help us make this bigger. I think I first heard about that sort of idea on a talk on creativelive.com, where I saw Tim Ferriss of the 4-hour everything, and Noah Kagan of AppSumo.
Yeah, I saw that. Was amazing. That was
amazing.
They
had a guy on there with the toothbrush. He had made all these, like, the world's best toothbrush, and he had spent like $10,000, $20,000. It was some like serious amount of money to come up with this awesome toothbrush, but he hadn't sold a toothbrush, and he had no idea what people thought about the toothbrush. And then they made him sell it on the air, which was very interesting to see. But it made a lot of sense, because you have to, do people actually want this? That is the number one question you should be answering up front.
Yes, that's for sure, because I mean, like I kind of grew up, right? This is the thing I've noticed. I grew up in the whole information marketing space. That's all I've known, right? And now I'm starting to get into startup world and stuff like that. And you see that kind of stuff, like the toothbrush thing. That happens a lot in information marketing world, right? And like, I think if more people were to think like startups, like regular like startups, like technology MVPs and all that kind of stuff, I think people would do a lot better, or at least if they didn't do good, they at least cut their losses.
Yeah. If they know people don't want it, then move, and you can always, when you do put that sort of first basic thing together to attempt to determine if the market is looking for something like this, you can always then, there's a word for it, but I can't locate it immediately, where you sort of spin it, you twist it. It's not exactly what they want, but you'll get an idea from doing it that way, where you can sort of, take a different angle. Maybe it's a little offshoot. Maybe you weren't spot on with your target, but you were just a little bit off, so you can sort of move in that direction to a different product in the same market, but it's something that they want. But you can't get that idea until you put out something and just test. For people who are not copywriters, they maybe don't know as much about this stuff as perhaps you and I do, but testing is a huge direct response, a huge copywriting type thing about over time determining sometimes counterintuitively, what is the best message? What's pulling the best? What are sort of tips maybe you could give other people about, testing that you've done perhaps, and some weird, stories, perhaps, if you got any of weird things that you didn't think would be the case and turned out to be sort of a counterintuitive success.
This is actually an interesting topic for me because I am god awful when it comes to A/B testing.
Right.
That's one of my kryptonites. I cannot do it for my life.
Right.
But and then another thing with that kind of stuff, testing, I see that there's obviously a point to it, but for the most part, a lot of times you don't need to do it, like in terms of like straight up like, okay, I'm gonna test this and that. Because when you know copy, all you have to know really is you don't have to actually know how to word things the way the best they should be. You just have to know the triggers. What is the thing that makes these people actually do it? And then the way you go about it, okay, now you can test different sentences and stuff like that. But if you know someone's gonna, if you know scarcity is what makes people to buy right now, then use scarcity. How you go about it, then you could A/B test that. So
Right.
at least when it comes to actually testing something, I'm trying to think of something. I can't. I would say it was mostly having to do not straight up A/B testing, just like random like testing. One thing that I did a lot. It was actually with the Street Magician that we did. How frequency of emails happened. Actually, how much it did? I think it increased revenues by like 600% or something like that. Just going from 2 emails a day to everyday emails, daily emails, and
So two emails a week to daily emails, you mean?
Yeah, 2 emails a week to daily emails, and yeah, those are the kind of tests that I've done, right? Like those big macro things,
right?
Right,
where it shifted it very extreme in one way or the other.
Exactly, and that's if you're gonna test, that's the way you should do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
now, because you seem to have done a lot of emailing, people out there, other marketers are listening to this. There seems to be the sort of two camps. That you have the people who like sort of like I learned email marketing from Matt Fury, and he was big on the daily, multiple times daily. He said, paraphrasing, I think, but he would say, I would email 3 times a day, but I'm too lazy, because I don't need the money or whatever, because it was killing it already. Now, and then later I ran into, probably because I was interested in email and doing that kind of stuff, that I ran into Ben Settle and sort of other people of the same, John McCullough we had on the show here, who was doing stuff the similar at the same time. For people who don't email daily or multiple times daily, perhaps in some cases, what sort of things does that provide that in your experience that are important?
To email daily?
Yeah.
One thing that I really actually learned as well in trying to sell fitness stuff, one thing that emailing daily does is that it lets you to test a lot, figuring out new ways to describe or to position your product. That helps an insane amount actually, and just staying in touch with your subscribers and you like when it's one of those things that like you just do it. Like I don't plan it, right? I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I like the way like Ben Sal says, I just you just brain fart an email like,
right.
And it comes out and then boom, you see what happens. That's pretty much what I do. The only thing about that kind of stuff about daily emails is that it's kind of like anything else, right? Is if it's good, daily will work. If you're not good, it's not gonna work. So and it's pretty like for example, like people say like YouTube videos, oh, like you should only do 2 minutes or less, right? Because of attention, whatever. That's not true because people watch 3-hour movies, no problem.
If it sucks, they're not going to watch it all.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, in your email experience, one of the things I found was, and we have a guest upcoming who's going to delve into this more because he wrote a really great article on a site called Ghost Influence.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan. And he put it the best that I've ever heard so far in terms of the languaging of what this does when you email daily. And I have emailed multiple times daily for some cases. And what I found is the most important aspect is you're emailing, especially if it's a clientele, they may have a large list of people. And only a certain percentage of those people have bought anything. But what you'll do, and let's say you were doing that, because a lot of people don't even email twice a week. They email once a month, or they're like scared to offend anybody by email, any more often. They want to chase these people off their list. But I say, and I got this from Matt Fury or whoever else, is that you want the people. Are you there to cuddle, or are you there to fuck? Basically, is how Brian put it, right? Which I think is the perfect sort of sentence for this, because fucking is the buying. Are the people there to get help, get the products that are going to get their problem solved, or are they there just to hang around and sort of, because people do enjoy the stories and stuff you tell, people tell in emails. I get it, but it helps you. The more you email, it helps you get rid of people who are not there to fuck. Basically, you'll find your buyers, you find your audience, you find the people who are really there because they really love what you do. They want the help, they want the information that you're providing, and they want to get this solved. So I think from what you're saying, that sounds like that's a big part of what you do as well.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things that like, and another thing about that is like, even if they don't buy immediately, they'll buy eventually because they are part of you. They like you and they like your stuff. So it's just a matter of when, not if.
Right.
But yeah, so.
No, I think that's important. I think people, I told a guy the other day on Facebook on a thread that because people were asking, some people email every day. What's the pros and cons to that? Of course, it can't be like you said earlier, Dan. It can't be shitty and boring, or it's not going to work. But I think emailing daily, especially for a business owner who's maybe not a copywriter, email is a very low sort of entry point to where you can get good at this. Is coming up with stories and stuff about you, about your business, about the products you have, and twisting them into attempting to sell something every day through the email. And you become very good at finding ways to tie it in. It's almost like an improv class in many ways. I've never taken an improv class, but from what I've heard, you become very good at, like, I can take it literally now. I could take a story about anything and twist it back to something about a given product, tie it in somehow, if you will. So I think, that's something that for copywriters, of course, it's a very good skill to have. And for just business owners who maybe are just starting, maybe they don't have the money to hire a copywriter, they can get in. That's a very low entry point. Just learn how to do daily emails and tell fascinating stories and tie them into that product.
Yeah, I think that's actually, to learn copy is one of the best ways, just going in there and actually doing it every day. There is an alternative though, and they do it a lot in startup world. It's just basically, hey, if you can't write good copy, the alternative is just, can you write good blog posts? Okay, great. Now do that every day. Send out the email, put a link to your buy button or somewhere and at the PS, and then that's the alternative. If you really cannot write good copy, that is the alternative. There's no reason why you can't email more frequently.
Right. And I think I think maybe the first time I heard this was Ben Settle talking about this, because the Matt Fury stuff was quite a few years ago when the internet was more new. But I think it was Ben Settle who said this, where what he would do is he would write the daily emails, and then he would, you would sort of send it out to every channel. So you write that daily email, which goes to your list, but you also take that same email and you make that a blog post. You also take that same email, you make it a YouTube video, you make it an Instagram post, you make it whatever. You can get people to do that for you, which is probably a smarter way to do it. But, that becomes everything. You can repurpose that in so many different ways, which is you create that one piece of content and become very valuable. Like Carlos, who's normally on this show with me co-hosting, one of his ideas in the very early part of these shows, if you go back and listen to them, for people listening, he talks about he would make like 20 videos and then he would re-upload them over and over again, giving them different titles and so forth, and just like took over the internet, basically. You'd see Carlos' face every day, everywhere. That's what sort of one, sort of a different way to sort of do that. But it has the same effect in that you're front of mind when people are looking for, in his case, copywriting services, and other people, your product.
Yeah. I did the same thing when I actually followed Carlos's advice about getting clients, like basically adding people on Facebook and then just putting out content. I wrote out. He did videos, but I just wrote text, like 2 3 sentences every single day. Then eventually I'll just like, you know what? Let me just copy and paste the old ones.
Yeah.
And then yeah, people liked it.
These are secrets, people. These are secrets. Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think people think, part of the reason people don't get started often is overwhelm, but repurposing something you write once is a very easy way to extract more value. And you don't know where your clients are for whatever product it is you have. They could be more likely to watch. Maybe they're into more videos. Maybe they're on your list. Maybe they're already, or they're in different formats. Maybe it's depending on what you're selling. Maybe they only are 17-year-old girls on Instagram. I don't know. So repurposing this content is I think a very good way to go about it too. It's very interesting. Now, Dan, if people want to get in touch with you, you have your Copy Monk group that they can join. And that's just on Facebook. Just go into groups, put Copy Monk. You'll be able to find that, I'm sure. If people want to get in touch with you, what is your personal website?
Right now it's just copymonk.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Very easy. That's copymonk.com. Are you taking clients still?
Nope.
There you go. See, there you go. So sorry, you missed the boat, people. Yeah, he's already onto his own stuff. If you didn't get him at the cut rate prices, you're too late. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I think everyone, if you're trying to avoid, I mean, like you said earlier, and I'm this way. For the right person, I would get involved. If it's something interesting and it's something lucrative where both people are it's a win-win situation, and it's something I find interesting, I'm always open to that. But everyone's gone through the shameless whore phase, doesn't want to do that part anymore. So if you're serious about doing business, then yeah, I'm sure anyone is open to anything. But
yeah, like they say in the movies, everyone has their price,
Right. Everyone has a price for the $1 million man.
Like for example, like for me, like like I said, I was graduating today, and I'm not gonna have a lot of free time, but I do know that in the next 5 years, I'm still doing client work that I'm not gonna be happy. So I have to do what it is that I feel I'm gonna be happiest with later in my life. So yeah.
Now you just graduated today, and again, congratulations. That's big accomplishment, What did you intend to do with was it to go into this field anyways? Was that your sort of initial thoughts about jumping into college? Because a lot of people, there seems to be a lot of people now talking about who are against college necessarily because of the debt load and certain other reasons. You went through a 4-year program?
Yeah, like I'm 22 now. I started this whole online thing when I was 15.
Right.
So my originally when I was 15, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make 7 figures selling these workout programs. That's what I was dreaming of back when I was 15. And then
you were gonna be Beachbody, basically.
I was gonna be. I guess more accurately, more like Vince Del Monte or Craig Ballantyne. Yeah, like those are the people who were like, because I didn't even know Beachbody even was back then.
Right.
But and then like when I got into college, I think I was still doing fitness related stuff. And then I eventually I dove into self-defense a little bit for like a year. And then just during that time, you kind of like you screw up, you fail and stuff like that. And then I just eventually, with input from other people and just from necessity I just thought about, let me try copy. At the beginning, I didn't want to do copy because I thought it was too close to, to the make money online niche. But now I think I figured out a way to make it more about the skill rather than it is to, or like, helping business owners build systems rather than, this magical words can make you millions of dollars overnight. You know what I'm saying? So I think I finally found a way I can actually go about selling that in a way that I feel legit and happy about. So
well, that's awesome, man. That's great. Sounds like you're really hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Dan. It's been a real pleasure. I'm glad we were able to connect and make this happen. You've dropped some really interesting knowledge. I'm sure there's people get a lot out of listening to this. We've covered a lot of different sort of diverse topics within the copywriting and business world. And I just want to say, hey, thanks a lot, man, especially on the day that you're graduating, which I didn't know, but that's awesome that you took the time out to share some value with our audience.
No, thank you. This was amazing. I really love this kind of stuff.
That's awesome, man. Now, everybody else, of course, knows we always like to thank Ben Sound at bensound.com for his free, royalty-free music that he has there. I suggest you check it out if you got projects that need music. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Takeover Tuesday podcast. We'll talk to you then.